Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of This Is Not a Recorder, a new video series covering the shakuhachi in depth. In each episode, we're going to cover different aspects of the shakuhachi to try to figure out what makes it such a special instrument. In future episodes, we'll have lessons and tutorials for those of you interested in learning to play yourself, so make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're interested in that kind of thing. But for now, let's dive into episode 1, the different materials of shakuhachi. A question that's been making its rounds in the shakuhachi community is, what is the best material a shakuhachi should be made from? And that used to be an easy question. There's only one material, and that's bamboo. But recently, there have been a lot of different new and interesting materials used to make shakuhachis, and some of them even have practical advantages over the banake bamboo. That being said, there's much more to the sound of the shakuhachi than just the material it's made from. Even two bamboo flutes from the same maker can have vastly different sounds because of slight design variations. The cut of the utaguchi, the way the bell flares out, the cut of the bore, the shape of the holes, and of course the player are all variables that have to be controlled for. This makes it difficult to isolate one variable like material when trying to determine which is best. So practical considerations are one of the most important things when trying to determine which is best for a given situation or a given player. Now, I've collected 6 different shakuhachis of 6 different materials to compare. There's no reverb or sound processing on any of these, just the sound of each shakuhachi as it was recorded. First up, the Senshu Original Type A, made from Madake bamboo. Madake bamboo has long been the gold standard of shakuhachi making, so it's the standard by which we're going to compare all of these shakuhachis. All bamboo shakuhachis can be classified into one of 2 groups, jiari and jinashi. Jiari flutes, like this one, have a clay-like substance coating the inside called ji, and then that's typically covered with a red lacquer called urushi. That smooths out the inside of the bore, eliminating any inconsistencies, which makes it easier to make adjustments for tone and tuning. More on jinashi flutes later. This particular flute, made by Yukihiko Mitsuka from the shakuhachi shop Senshu Shakuhachi Kobo in Komae, Tokyo, is a more modern take on the traditional shakuhachi, with a different cut of the utaguchi, larger holes to make chromatic playing easier, and a flaring out bell. It also has what they call the Mary cut, which is this little cut here to make chromatic playing even easier. So it has a bigger, brighter sound than a typical bamboo shakuhachi, but it's the only one I've got, so that's what we'll compare to today. Each bamboo shakuhachi is cut from the ground. It's a unique piece of bamboo. You can even see the root end right here. So they can be somewhat inconsistent. It takes a great maker to make consistent shakuhachis from all these different kinds of bamboo. Because of that, bamboo isn't necessarily the most consistent material, but a lot of people like to embrace that. They embrace the sound of the nature as it grew. Madake bamboo is a surprisingly resilient material, but it is prone to cracking with drastic changes in humidity and temperature. So you have to be careful for that and humidity control when you're traveling. Some shakuhachis will be one single piece, other ones will have a split in the center. This way you can take it apart, and that makes it easier to travel with. The price range of bamboo shakuhachis can also vary greatly. Professional level shakuhachis can cost thousands of dollars. Student level shakuhachis can be in the hundreds. Other factors that can affect the price include historical value and age, the prominence of the maker, and the quality of the bamboo. Next up, the Aireed X 331D Katana aluminum shakuhachi. I wanted to compare this one right after the bamboo one because they're made by the same maker, Yukihiko Mitsuka. So a lot of the design elements are the same. The large holes, the meri cut, the cut of the utaguchi, the shape of the bore, it's all very similar. So we should be able to isolate that one variable in material pretty well. One of the biggest differences in designing an instrument out of metal rather than bamboo is that it's not a natural material. And so you're not relying on nature to give you a perfect piece. You get to engineer it. So a lot of the consistency that is missing from a bamboo instrument, from one instrument to another, is there from one aluminum shakuhachi to another. You can expect these all to play more or less the same. Now beyond that, there's so much practicality in this instrument. It breaks down into 4 pieces, which fits in a nice convenient case, so traveling with it is excellent. Because it breaks down into 4 pieces and one of them is above all of the holes, you can actually tune it by pulling this in and out. You can also adjust the finger position of the holes. If you want it to be more ergonomic for your hands, you can slide them off like that, off center. Weather is not going to affect the durability of this instrument, obviously. It's not going to crack like bamboo would. So that's one advantage that it has. You don't have to worry so much, especially when traveling. Like when you get off of a dry plane and go into a more humid atmosphere, you don't have to worry about humidity control on this instrument. The katana does weigh in at 550 grams, which is massive for a shakuhachi. It's heavier than any shakuhachi I've ever held. But that's easily counteracted with this thumb rest right here that snaps right on and holds, and you can put it wherever you like for the comfort of your own hands. I find the sound of this shakuhachi to be laser-like, loud, very clear, and especially in the daikon register, the 3rd octave, just the response is clearer than any shakuhachi I've played. If you like the sound of Hozan Yamamoto, that laser beam kind of sound, you might be able to get it with this flute. This is a professional level instrument, and the price reflects that. So I wouldn't recommend it for beginners necessarily, but for professionals who are looking for a very practical alternative or something that will really be able to cut through with modern music, this is a great option. Next is the Geoffrey Ellis Faux Bamboo Shakuhachi, made from kiln-dried maple wood. This one is made by Geoffrey Ellis, a very skilled woodworker out in California who makes a variety of wood flutes. He actually made the head joint that I use on my Western flute. Now, wood can typically be a more fragile material, vulnerable to weather and humidity changes like bamboo, and also more vulnerable to impacts and dropping. But Geoffrey has put his flutes through a stabilization process that covers them in a clear coat of lacquer and wax and covers the inside with a clear coat epoxy resin that makes it waterproof and also more resistant to weather changes. So for a wood flute, this is about as stable as they come. This shakuhachi is designed with a more traditional aesthetic in mind from the 2 that we've listened to already. It's one piece, it has smaller holes, and a shallower cut utaguchi. It's a very light flute, only 244 grams. So if you have any hand troubles, like carpal tunnel or tendinitis, this is a great option. I find this instrument to have a soft, subtle, more traditional sound, perfectly suited for playing honkyoku. In fact, you've been hearing me play this instrument on a honkyoku called Takeochi in the background through this video. You can hear the full version of that in the SoundCloud link in the description. The price point puts it in a beginner to intermediate range, so if you're looking for something to start on, but you want to have a natural material flute that's in tune, you can't do much better than this. Next up, the Geoffrey Ellis Black Ebonite Shakuhachi, made from ebonite. Ebonite is an extremely versatile natural material made from vulcanizing rubber. It's been used to make saxophone mouthpieces, clarinet mouthpieces, bowling balls, electric plugs, hockey pucks, and now shakuhachis. This one is also made by Geoffrey Ellis, the same maker as the wood shakuhachi we just listened to. So although there are some design modifications because it's one of his newer flutes, we should be able to compare the two and get a pretty good idea of what the material is doing to affect the sound. Weighing in at 462 grams, this one-piece shakuhachi's best asset is that it's completely impervious to weather. Like I said, they make hockey pucks from this material, so this can get cold and it won't be affected. This is huge. If you have a gig outside in the winter, if you're playing in a cold theater, this will not be affected for tuning, and you don't have to worry about cracking at all. And it's a natural material. The price might put it out of range for beginners, but for intermediate players and professionals who are worried about cracking their bamboo flute in bad weather, this is a great option. Compared to the wood, I find this instrument to have a slightly more even tones, a little bit brighter, and maybe a little more modern, but just a great all-around instrument. Next is the Shakuhachi Yuu, made from plastic. The Shakuhachi Yuu is probably the most popular beginner shakuhachi. It's the same shakuhachi I started on and the one that I recommend to most beginners, and for good reason. The Yuu is made from a mold, so each one is functionally identical. There's some detailing on it that make each one slightly unique, but for playing, all of the important things are the same. Now, why that's important is that as a beginner, you don't want to end up with an out of tune or inconsistent instrument, because you might start forming bad habits to cover for those inconsistencies and not even know that you're forming those habits. So the Yuu, being an in-tune and reliable instrument, is something that I can recommend without question, knowing that you won't form bad habits. It's inexpensive, it puts it right in the range for beginners. It breaks down into 2 pieces, and it's also borderline indestructible because it's made of plastic. The Yuu weighs in at 421 grams. While this is a great quality instrument, especially for those who aren't sure if they want to invest in a higher quality instrument yet, it does have a ceiling. Eventually you're going to outgrow it, and you're going to want to upgrade to a better shakuhachi. For that reason, I don't recommend the advanced model that they sell on their website. The whole point is that you start with this and then move on, so why invest more in a slightly better playing plastic shakuhachi? I also definitely don't recommend the mouthpiece that they sell on the website that basically turns this into a recorder. If there is anything that you remember from this episode, please let it be that this is not a recorder. Last up, the bell shakuhachi, made from a bamboo dust and resin composite. Remember the beginning of this video when I mentioned there were 2 main classifications of shakuhachi, jiari and jinashi? Well, this flute is modeled after a jinashi shakuhachi. The idea is, rather than ironing out all the quirks and inconsistencies of the inside of the bore, to rather embrace them as the sound that nature gave you. For people who play for meditation, this is the norm. Made by shakuhachi player, teacher, and maker Jon Kypros, the bell shakuhachi was designed for people who want a jinashi flute but can't quite afford a bamboo one. If you look at the inside of the bore, you can see the texture is rough, lined just like the inside of a piece of bamboo would be. As you can see, it's just one piece and has these really nice touches from Jon to make it look like a real piece of bamboo. The bell weighs in at 383 grams, and it's basically indestructible like the Shakuhachi Yuu. If you're interested in the side of the shakuhachi that's about meditation and nature, but you're not quite ready to make the leap to buy an expensive jinashi bamboo flute, this is a great option to get started. Sound-wise, this is a much softer instrument than any of the others that I've played today. It's meant for meditation, to be played alone, so it doesn't need to cut through other instruments like a shamisen or a koto or drums. It's meant for you to get in touch with long tones. So while I wouldn't recommend it for ensemble playing, if you're looking to play more solo music and really meditate, it's a great instrument. Well, what'd you think? Which shakuhachi material makes the best sound? Let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you so much for watching this inaugural episode of This Is Not a Recorder. I have so many subjects that I can't wait to talk about, so many ideas, but if you have any ideas, let me know those in the comments. All the shakuhachis that I played today have links in the description where you can buy them or learn more about them. Thank you to all the makers for sending me these flutes to try out and show everybody. I hope this lends itself to a more informed discussion in the shakuhachi community about different materials of shakuhachi. If you like this kind of video, there is more to come, so please like and subscribe. And thank you so much. We'll see you next time.